Hey Josie, how you doing? Okay, thank you so much for submitting your banana all on only one cup of coffee. I think you're looking pretty good here. Good craft, nice, good, solid, consistent tone throughout the all of the letter forms. So that's fantastic. Well, I think the one of the obvious things that I think we're seeing is the fact that your sizes actually get consistently smaller as we move to the right. And I don't find that too terribly surprising because as I'm looking at, I am not seeing your guides. So I'm not seeing a baseline, mean line, and cap line. Those will definitely help you keep a consistent size in your letters. The other thing I'm seeing is that your letter forms, now there's three A's, but each one is considerably different, as we can see right through here. That one gets really thin. This one gets kind of fat right at the end, and this one kind of stays a little consistent. Of the three, I think this one is probably the most accurate to the A in Franklin Gothic. So what I would recommend is to make sure that you trace these. So it just seems like you've got one that's large enough. Print this out and then place this under your paper and trace the letter forms. And that'll try to, at least the hard lines so that you can fill those in later. But at least it'll give you a really good baseline of the letter sizes themselves. The kerning right now, I think you're really tight in a couple of areas, specifically these areas right here between the A and the N. And the reason that that could end up being problematic is that with these two straight sides of the letters so close together, this creates what's called visual vibration, or it actually creates a kind of a focal point in an area where you really don't want to draw attention, and that's between two letters. And the reason it does that is because with these both being straight, it creates visual density right there, a contrast. And as we know, contrasts draw the eye's attention. So we kind of want to keep this as innocuous as possible because, as I said, it's a word. We want the viewer to view the word and not sections of the word. If the viewer can view the word consistently, when reading, we just read the word. We are able to see the word. When the kerning is such that there's unusual spaces, we kind of break it down. The mind breaks it down, and instead of seeing the word, we see a series of letters, and that does not make for optimal reading. Okay, so moving forward, what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that on your second iteration, you draw that baseline. Go ahead and draw that baseline out on your paper. Then take your printout, place the A, the B under, on the baseline, and trace that out. Then draw your cap line where the top of the B is. Okay, make sure those are perfectly parallel all the way from the front of the sketch paper to the back, because we're going to use those for guides. At that point, take your A, trace your A out. I'm going to show you some kerning tricks in a second. Once you trace your A out, then you can establish your mean line. Then make sure that mean line, so you have baseline at the bottom, mean line at the X height of the letter forms, and then cap height at the very top where the cap is. Okay, so those three lines will act as guides. Once you have those guides in place, it's going to be a whole heck of a lot. Let me see. Here's a couple of guides right here. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot easier for you. There's baseline, mean line, cap line. It's going to be a lot easier for you to maintain consistency, and then we can just concentrate solely on the distance between the letters. Okay, general rule of thumb for sans serif typefaces, specifically in this instance, you want the most narrow space between letters to occur between two letters that have curved letter forms. Of course, in this series of letters, that is the B and the A. So the B and the A would be closest in kerning in this word. The next closest would be between letters that have a straight side and a curved side. So the N and the A would be a little bit wider than the two curved sides. And then finally, the widest area would be between the A and the N, where you have two straight portions of letter forms meeting. Okay, when I say these distances, they're pretty minute distances, so they shouldn't be really too noticeable at all. You're going to see when you adjust these differences, the word banana is going to look like a single word and not a series of letters. Okay, and that's very relevant to the expeditious reading of type and the way that the viewer is able to view series of words and not have to stop and look at each word. That's how we read more economically. Hope that makes sense. If not, let me know and I'll be glad to clarify that. It's a pretty important principle in typography. Okay, so again, in summary, so make sure you draw your baseline. So you print out the typeface, right, the Franklin Gothic, print that out, take your tracing paper, place it under your tracing paper, and just the first thing you're going to do is just draw a straight line. That'll be your baseline. Then place the B on that straight line, establish your cap line, make sure that that's equidistant all the way from the beginning to the end, the distance between the cap line and the baseline. Then place your A and get a mark for your mean line, then draw that, making sure all three of those lines are perfectly parallel. Then you can start placing your letters, and you'll have the mean line as a guide so we don't have this kind of phenomenon where the letters are getting smaller as we move through the word. Watch the shapes of the letters. They have got to be highly, highly consistent. One trick is to watch the negative space. So that negative space there defines the stroke. And so if that's consistent, there's a good chance that the rest of the letter associated with that bowl are going to be consistent as well. All right, so great start. Really good craft. Just a few things, clean things up, and I'm looking forward to your next iteration. Now keep in mind, we've got another one of these next week. So this one is a little more complex than this, and it has some different letter combinations. So if you want to try the kerning game, I introduced that next week, but it'll be great practice right now. This is it. It's pretty self-explanatory. You just come in and kind of move letters around. Let me show you. Here's one right here. You would just come in here. You select that letter. You can either nudge it over with your keyboard, or you can select a letter and move it with your mouse. Then the idea is to do what you think is optimal kerning. Click compare, and it'll give you a score. Okay, it's a really, really nice little exercise, and I think one that'll definitely come in handy with this assignment. Okay, good job. Any questions at all, please let me know. Thank you very much, Josie.